Okay, guys, welcome to another video. This time I want to introduce you to another application, and the app is called the Open Camera. I will focus on the interface first, so we can have a look. On the left-hand side, you've got a few icons. The first one on the top is the settings icon. Quite a lot of things in here that you can play with, all right? But the ones I want to focus on are the two blue ones, which is basically photo settings and video. So let's talk about photo settings first. Camera resolution. Always choose the highest resolution that your phone can support. You want the highest pixel count so that you can actually have more space to manipulate, right? Image quality, needless to say, you want the best quality 100% all the time. The only time that you will want to play with the quality is if you want to create a much smaller file size. But I'll be honest with you, JPEG is already a format that is compressed. We do not want to sacrifice the quality any further, so just choose 100% for that. The next one is image format. You have three different formats here: JPEG, WebP, and PNG. Uh, Please choose JPEG. WebP and PNG are for very specific functions. JPEG is more universally accepted across all platforms and across all formats, all browsers as well. All right, so JPEG it is. The other options here are HDR mode, HDR's contrast, blah, 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 blah. Let's leave that for now because in order to understand what HDR is, we need to be a little bit more advanced in our exposure, in our understanding of exposure. And I will make another video in the future with regards to all of the features. Okay, let me turn off the data so that I'm not interrupted. Okay, so let's go back to all of the things that we have in here, and I think we are good. Let's get out of there. Let's go back to video settings. Video settings, if you click, same thing applies. Choose the resolution that your phone can afford. If the highest resolution is full HD, by all means please stick with that. If your phone is slightly older model, chances are it will work in 1280 by 720 setting, this one. All right, this is just normal HD. The highest resolution is full HD, and if you are lucky enough to own one of the more latest cameras, you will be able to shoot in 4K resolution. Which one is better? Of course, 4K is better, but that does not necessarily mean that it is sharper. The resolution is not connected to sharpness. The resolution is connected to resolution, the number of pixels in your frame. Okay, so I'll talk about that at another point in time. Yeah, digital video stabilization. Now, if you're shooting video, you want to leave this on. You want the software to help you stabilize your handheld shots. Okay, for me, I normally leave it off because my camera is always on a tripod. I try my best not to do handheld shots using video. Okay, video format, you've got quite a few formats over here. I always use the H.264 MPEG-4 codec because it is one of the most widely accepted codecs around. All right. The MPEG-4 HEVC codec is fairly new. It is also accepted by the majority of equipment, but it is actually pretty compressed as well. So I try not to use that. H.264 is, for me, the best option. Okay. The rest of the things here are peculiar preferences for you. Okay. You can choose whatever option here suits your needs. For audio source, I will always select camcorder. Okay, external mic, if present, if I'm using an external mic, I will leave it on. If not, I will just plug in a camcorder settings. Okay, now because I'm using a headset, that should work as well. Okay, for you, you can just leave it off and use the on-camera mic if you want to. All right, so let's get out of that. That will be option one. Now let's look at the next icon underneath that, and that are your camera modes in a nutshell. Okay, quite a lot of things for you to play with. Okay, but let's just look very quickly. The topmost icon is your flash button. Right now it's set to off. Now it's set to auto flash. permanent flash video light. All right, now let me show you what video light is. Video light means there is a light that emanates from the camera itself, which is great for commando shooting and emergency video production. Unfortunately, we don't need that because we don't do that. We will take our own lights with us. I recommend you leave it off and just bring your own lights separately. Underneath that, you have different kinds of modes. You have A. A is automatic focus. So if you move around, you can see that focus changes accordingly. All right. It works to a certain extent. It isn't rocket science, but it should work pretty well. All right. The next one is macro focus. Macro allows you to bring your thing really close. Unfortunately, as you can see, even the macro isn't that great. Okay, so my recommendation is leave it on to locked or C, and C is continuous focus. It will always keep changing if you are shooting tourism photos, holiday snaps, and things like that. Okay, if you are not, you can always set it to auto and then touch the screen to focus manually. All right, I'm touching different parts of the screen and the camera is focusing for me. All right, let's go underneath that. Underneath that is your exposure compensation bar. If it's too bright, you can make it brighter. If it's too dark, you can make it brighter. If it's too bright, you can make it darker. And let's see how this works outdoors. Okay, if you go outdoors, yes, that looks very nice indeed. I can make it really darker, or I can bring it up to a certain point. Now, please understand that this is not manual mode. This is exposure compensation. In other words, the camera is still calculating the exposure for you, but it then will compensate. So if I tell the camera, I want you to make it darker by 2 stops, it will check the focus, check the aperture, and then drop the aperture down by 2 stops just for me. Okay? Underneath here, you can now lock the exposure so that when I turn, the camera doesn't try to change it. All right, and this is great for doing things like pans. For example, perfect exposure over here, but when I turn to the left and I pan to the left like this, you don't see a jump in exposure. Let's try and remove the automatic exposure, or rather the exposure lock. Okay, and let's try to move. Moving, moving, moving. And you can see the image get brighter ever so slightly. Okay, coming back, and it's going to jump to darker as well. Now, this is great if you're on a holiday or if you're taking tourism shots. But if you're doing film production, that little jump in exposure reeks of amateurism again, and we do not want that. Yeah. Now, the bottom one is white balance locked. This is also pretty important because you do not want the color temperature to change from here to here. And this is particularly interesting, especially if this part of the room has white light, and let's say this part of the room has green light. See that? Right now it's locked, so the color doesn't change. I'm going to unlock it, all right? And then now I'm going to move to this side, and you can see the color just shifted. It's now orangey. You may not notice it if you're a general viewer, but if you're doing, like I said, productions and you're doing edits and you need to mix clips around, yeah, that thing's going to be a utter irritation. On the right hand side, you've got the camera change button, which now shoots me and I'm talking to you. While we are here, headset, wonderful, gives you the best audio that you can. And I would seriously recommend if you're going to do blogs, vlogs, or whatever, or basic communication with your customers, get a really decent headset to use. Okay. Underneath that, you have like I said, the shutter button, the camera button. You have playback, and you have at the bottom the digital zoom bar. All right, and this is digital zoom. Do not use the digital zoom. The digital zoom destroys images. Now, if your camera, or rather if your phone has an optical zoom, that's a different story altogether. Okay, it will be it will definitely be a lot better than a digital zoom. Now, is a digital zoom acceptable in terms of production? And the answer is yes. If you are producing content for a documentary, if you are producing content for a blog, if you are producing content for a different market, then by all means, your phone is a more than adequate production tool. If you're using your phone to learn editing, to learn compositing, to learn color, to learn exposure, your phone is a perfect tool simply because your phone follows you everywhere you go. Your DSLR doesn't. Okay, so don't be embarrassed if your phone is not of a decent quality. Try downloading this app, try playing with it, and learn the functions of the ISO, the shutter, and all that as explained. You should be pretty satisfied with all the features. All right. The app is called Open Camera. I will put a image. Did someone come? I will put an image at the end with a description from the Play Store, and hopefully you will be able to download this app and play with it. If you cannot get this app, or if Play Store removes the app, give me a message and I will send you the APK, and you'll be able to install it on your phone as well. For Mac users, there are, if I'm not mistaken, other phone apps that allow you to have manual control as well. Okay, so please, by all means, use all of those features that you want, and by all means, go and play with all of those functions and features, and try to get as good a shot as you can. All right. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy this app. As I find more apps, I will add them to the list. And I welcome your feedback or your problems, and I will help you out. Adios. Bye bye.